So came back over here to H-Tech Performance, got the ARM Motorsports 5-inch stepped intercooler installed. Got some pretty good runs on the road. So just with a dual cone, back end flash and JB4 and a charge pipe with blow off valve, and with the intercooler, got a 1291 was the best time, 110 miles an hour. I broke protocol and did not do a run after just the dual cone with the tune after the last dyno session. I'll try to not do that again. But prior to coming over here completely stock on the stock tune was a 13.94 at about 103.9, almost 104. So picking up a second and 6 miles an hour with a dual cone intake, charge pipe, blow off valve, doing the JB4 with the back end flash, being this DCT, the INAOS 0S pump flash. So with the intercooler, we're actually going to get the numbers. I'm not sure, being that it's on a dyno, if it's going to see as good of an improvement as you would on the road with a bunch of airflow, but they do set the fan up right in front of the intercooler. So anyway, be able to judge tune for tune the difference in the intercooler from the last time we're here. It's about the same temperatures, around 80, a lot more humid today, but they do have the weather correction factor set up on the dyno, so all the numbers are corrected for weather, temp and pressure. So anyway, should be fun. Half as many runs this time, and after this, go put the car on the lift, put the ARM Motorsports catless downpipes on, and then hopefully that'll really wake it up and see what kind of time it does on the Draggy GPS monitor, and on what kind of numbers it puts down on the dyno next time. Let's take a look at the results. The order I ran the runs in, started with more aggressive flashes and worked my way backwards to stock. So this first run was with the back end flash and JB4 on map 1. The result registered here is 341 wheel horsepower and 378 or 73 foot-pounds of torque. That's not right. I ended up learning, I'm going to put this in my dyno lessons learned file, but basically you see this peak after or at the end of the run. The automatic transmissions or the DCT, when you hit red line, is going to shift. The first time I went to the dyno, I was letting off a little early. This was just keeping it pinned all the way through, and when it shifted, it caused this peak here. So I ended up taking this into Photoshop and dropping some lines like I've done here to get the setting up a grid to see exactly where it was. So it was actually 318. I got it on the results sheet here in a second. So 318 wheel horsepower, 373 foot-pounds of torque. Coming down to the second run I did, which was still with a back-end flash, but put it into map 5, the learning map, to see what would happen. Ended up getting about the exact same horsepower, right around 318. Torque dropped down to 357. I then took the back end flash off, put the ECU back to stock, and left the JB4 on in map 1, and got 306 wheel horsepower, which the little anomaly on this one ends up being exactly where the horsepower peaked anyway, so this number is accurate. 306 horsepower, 354 torque, and the final one, stock flash JB4 off, was 279 wheel horsepower and 349 foot-pounds of torque. So coming over and breaking it down, you can see the improvements. When I did the baseline run, got 271 wheel horsepower and 348 foot-pounds of torque. I think it's kind of a high torque reading, or maybe on the OEM flash, the run I did for the charge pipe blow-off valve was initially a low torque reading, because this is the little guy that kind of throws off these graphs. But anyway, so looking at for the OEM flash, from baseline run to dual cone intake, charge pipe blow-off valve, and front mounted intercooler, went from 271 wheel horsepower to 279 foot-pounds of torque. 271 horsepower to 279 horsepower. The torque on the stock flash really only changed by about 1. These were different days, so either it did improve and this 348 from the baseline run was high, but that one's kind of a little wacky as far as my results. It could have been, the first time I went to the dyno was, still an experience. It could have been the results that it actually got. It could have been measuring error, something like that. If we're looking at the OEM back end with just a JB4 turn on a map 1, on stock parts, it had 291 wheel horsepower. Really didn't see a huge improvement on the run I did with the dual cone intake and charge pipe. It only went up to 292. This time when I came back, it jumped up to 306. So 15 on that map, 15 wheel horsepower, if you're running JB4 on map 1, is a notable improvement. If you did these hardware upgrades plus bought a JB4, you'd be looking at going from 271 to 306, so essentially 35 wheel horsepower. Torque-wise, you'd be jumping from 348 to 355, so about 7. Or correction, 354. So yeah, still about 6. With the back-end flash and JB4 on map 1's, all stock components was 301 wheel horsepower, and we got an increase up to 318 after going all the way through the front-mounted intercooler, so there's 17 horsepower. So again, like I said in the first video, this definitely seems that though the hardware by itself helps, it has a amplified effect when you have the flashes going with it. And I had the JB4 for a long time before I ever did the back-end flash. I guess I was resistant to buying an Android device, but after doing it, it really brings things up. So that's the power numbers from the Mustang Dyno's MD250. Got a little pic here. So with the Draggy GPS monitor, prior to doing anything with all stock components, stock flash, ended up getting a 13.98, just under 14 seconds at 103.79, so just under 104 miles an hour. After the first dyno session, I didn't go get a run-in to see the changes from the flashes and the dual cone intake and charge pipe, but after putting on the front mounted intercooler, when got both these runs, I included them both because, for one thing, for the first time I broke into 12s on the car. Now the time that I broke into 12s, the mile an hour is 109, and then my first time breaking into 110, the trap time was a little slower, but did get a 110.62. So with the back end flash, JB4, charge pipe, dual cone intake, and front mounted intercooler, the car has gone from just under 14 seconds at about 104 to being a less than 13-second car at over 110. It's pretty impressive results. I'm happy with it. Anyway, so I hope you found information helpful, and I will have a downpipe install video coming shortly, installing my ARM Motorsports catless downpipes, and then the dyno run I did after that. Thanks for watching.